Good. So then let's talk about something more interesting, right? So how Chinese innovation works, right? And we also acknowledge that there are many innovation-related experts in the world, right? Many innovation framework, theories, commentators, and so on, right? So we didn't want to complicate the world by introducing another framework, but we had to, right, in order to explain Chinese innovation better, right? And this is our attempt. So we define, 4 different archetypes of innovation, right? And then first type of innovation is called, science-based innovation, right? So this is, close to the a traditional view on innovation, right? Basically, in order to drive innovation, you need to have, lots of, smart PhDs, right, in your R&D lab, right? And then give them, a lot of, resource, right? And then let them drive, 5, 10, 20-year, long-term research, right? And often the outcome is breakthrough, right? Invention, right? Something very new to the world, right? And we typically see this kind of innovation in pharmaceutical industry or semiconductor industry, where the product life cycle is long, right? So that's the first type of innovation. Second type of innovation is called engineering-based innovation, right? So in this type of innovation, the key is to accumulate engineering know-how, right? And let your engineers work with the technology suppliers, right? And other providers, right? And then get the latest technology and then integrate them on your own platform, right? So for example, in automotive industry, right? So aerospace industry, right? So we typically see this the engineering-based innovation. Third type of innovation is called customer-focused innovation, right? So this one is less about R&D, right? But more about speed, right? So I think someone talked about this in the beginning, right? So understanding customer pain points and then rapidly introduce new products and services and business models and then address those pain points, right? For example, in consumer-facing industry like internet or consumer electronics, we typically see this kind of innovation, right? The last one is called efficiency-driven innovation, right? So this is largely about process innovation, right? So how to cut cost, improve quality, reduce time, right? So in traditional manufacturing industry, right, like steel, right, or solar panel industry, right? So we typically see this kind of innovation. Yeah? Does it make sense? Do you guys agree? Yeah? Even though you disagree, it's too late, right? We published our report already. But if you have any input, feel free to let me know. We can, continue to refine the framework, right? So if we all agree, right, so with this view, right? So then can you guys guess where China is strong and where China has room to catch up? Yeah, so so if you take the profit as an example, right? So the barrier on science-based innovation and engineering-based innovation will be a lot higher, right? So therefore, the per unit value add will be a lot higher in those industries, right? So pharmaceutical, right? So semicon, right? Those industries enjoy very fat margin, right? But then it's very difficult to enter that industry. Whereas, efficiency-driven, right? If it's textile, steel, solar panel, right? There's, cutthroat competition, right? Yeah. Customer could be somewhere in between, right? So if it's in the early phase of development, you can still claim a high margin, but as the category gets commoditized, you feel pressure, right? In terms of your margin. Okay, so and in order to answer this question, right? So where China is strong and where China has room to catch up, we did some quantitative analysis, right? So if you can see this chart, that means you are still very young, right? So by the way, this more detailed elaboration is in the report that we published. So you can take a look at the report. And today, just try to fill the chart, right? So we looked at 30 different industries and then analyzed the 20,000 companies. Basically, our view was that if your innovation performance is better, that will help companies to expand their revenue and profit, right? And we calculated for each of those industries, we calculated the revenue share of China-based companies, right? and then compare that against so-called the fair share, right, which is basically China's GDP share in the world, right? And basically the top line finding is that for customer-focused innovation and efficiency-driven innovation, China is doing quite well, right, or improving performance rapidly, right? Science-based innovation and engineering-based innovation, China still has room to catch up, right? Because as of today, you don't see a globally competitive pharmaceutical or semiconductor companies or airplane companies coming out of China, right? But then there is an exception. Exception is so-called business to government segment especially in engineering-based industry, and we'll get to that, right? But then for each of these innovation archetype, China has strength, right? China has very interesting strength that we need to pay attention to, right? And let's talk about that one by one, right?